Oh, good day. It's V-Day Master John Curtis from Australia again. And today I want to share with you my research into Sicilian defence, the classical dragon. I was actually looking for a game that Magnus Carlsen might have played where it might be an interesting attacking game. And to be frank, I was actually looking at some of Magnus's losses in his earlier years. I did see a couple there to Simon Agdestein, and I remember how Simon or Agdestein, a Grandmaster from Norway, he gave me a real good hiding in the Doball Cup in Canberra, Australia once. And I was just squashed. I couldn't move. It's like being. I felt like if I'd been squashed by a boa constrictor until there was no breath left in me, and I was absolutely shattered. It's one of the few games that I've ever actually been completely crushed. And I remembered Simon Agdestein doing that, so it was no surprise to go to look back on Magnus' earlier history and see those wins by Simon Agdestein, S-I-M-E-N it is, Agdestein. So if you ever want to see those games, just go back to chessgames.com, and they've got all Magnus's history going right back to 1999. He suffered quite a few losses in those days, but that was all a road to being the great player that he is today. Anyway, today I'm going to go back to 2004 to round 7 of the Norwegian Chess Championship between DJURHUUS, I hope I pronounced it correctly, DJURHUUS, and Magnus Carlsen. DJURHUUS was the fourth Norwegian Grandmaster. Simon Agdestein was actually another one of them. And we're going to look at this game. RUNE became a European Junior Champion in 1991. That was ahead of KRAMNIK, so it shows you what sort of player he was. Anyway, we're going to go and have a look at this game now. And right, we're opening up with the Sicilian. It's as you say, it's a dragon Sicilian. And right. And Magnus is black. I wanted to find a game where Magnus played some sort of gambit or something. I was looking for Magnus gambits with the black pieces and stuff, but I just wanted to find something interesting. And it's a volatile sort of game where RUNE really takes it to him. And Magnus, being Magnus, he even in his earlier days, he becomes quite inventive. Anyway, it's a book move, d4, c takes, knight takes, Bishop g7, so we're just in the main line of the dragon, Sicilian dragon. Bishop e3, knight f6, and now white correctly plays bishop e2. It's a book move. If you played f3, queen b6 is played, so and it gets very, very nasty indeed. So you didn't want to look at that variation being played. So here we go. White castles, black castles, sorry, Magnus castles. And white plays knight to b3. And apparently this is the very best move. And I played white against the dragon. Honestly, I didn't know that that was the best move. So I'm learning something here today. And I get an awful mess sometimes when I'm playing against a Sicilian dragon. d6, and that is the best move. No surprise with these two players. Castles, a6, best move. I'm preparing b5. Okay, so that's what he wants to do. He wants to play b5 and get some momentum on the queen's side. RUNE plays f4. Oh, RUNE's a journalist, by the way, too. He does a bit of journalism. Like my good friend Grandmaster Ian Rogers, he switched to journalism when he's had a bit of bad health, so he's a chess journalist. and it does help them with their steady income stream, and they bring joy to the rest of the chess community. So bishop f3, star, best move. So you would think, oh, maybe you should stop b4 with maybe a3 and slow it down a little bit. No, but no, the correct move is to play bishop f3 and play an attacking game. So bishop b7, best move. Now, it's really unusual because the fireworks seem to start here, and frankly, when I was playing through the game, I thought that Magnus was losing, but I wanted to see what the engine says, and I'm sure you do too. Okay, so RUNE plays e5, and it's thumbs up, excellent move, but apparently queen to e1 was the best move. Perhaps maybe in these types of positions, it's not too wise to just open everything up straight away. It's all about the timing. And now d takes e5. Apparently this is the very best move on the board. And now pawn takes pawn, best move. Now knight to d7, that says that's the best move. I think that's the only move there is. e6, best move. I mean, really, if I was black in this position, I would hate this position as black. But Magnus being Magnus and being the resourceful player that he is, he takes it all in his stride and just simply recaptures the pawn. And, oh, gee, I'd hate to be on the black side of things with this next move coming. Bishop g4. Now look at this. The white squares of black. He's threatening bishop takes pawn check, winning a knight. I mean, really, it's a real worry. So, but Magnus calculates accurately. Rook takes f1 check. Trying to release some of the tension, no doubt. And now queen takes f1, best move. Now, knight to e5, not the c5 to e5. It's a good move, but knight to f8 was best. And when I looked at this before I entertained showing you guys, I actually would have played knight to f8 in that position. I'm serious, that's what I would have played. So I would have played the best move. So I'm not saying I would go on one better than Magnus. I wouldn't be that brave to say that. But given the seriousness of the situation, I thought maybe you just got to go and dig in deep and play knight f8 and stop bishop takes e6 check. Anyway, bishop takes e6 check. And, I mean, really, white's winning. And that was my assessment of the position. Now, if we just go back here, if knight f8 was played, what would the position be then? I mean, I don't think white would be winning so much. It would be just a torturous affair that's going on. But Magnus obviously wanted a double-edged position. Maybe he'd seen further than his opponent. After all, Magnus is his own chess engine, isn't he? Even way back in 2004, I would say. King to h8. Okay. Now, black's still got a raging white bishop going down to g2. And no doubt he has plans to do something there. So queen to c7, he has to get off the pin. And we can see that by the little star there with the arrow, it's a forced and best move. Queen to e2, it's the best move on the board. You just say, well, hold on, where did RUNE go wrong? He seems to have played a brilliant game thus far. And Magnus didn't play knight to f8 as the engine suggested. Rook to f8. Now, it's interesting, that's a thumbs up. Rook to d8 was apparently the best. I mean, this would be one hell of a complicated position. I think only the engines can work it out. Anyway, bishop to d4. And when I looked at this position, I thought, gee, white looks like he's going really well. Computer says a4 was the best move. Well, I didn't see it. That means nothing, but I didn't see that a4 was the best move. When I was looking at it, I thought, and here I would think that white's winning. The white bar on the side of the board shows that RUNE has an advantage over Magnus, as minor as it may be. Now, b4. And now, knight to e4, best move. I mean, RUNE's playing a fantastic game here, and one would think that, like he's winning. The engine's saying that he's slightly better. Now, here we go. Where did RUNE go wrong? Rook to f4. Magnus is trying to put pressure on the position. He's threatening rook takes knight on e4. And he doesn't want white to have time to play bishop takes knight or knight g5. Anyway, knight g5 is played. And to all intents and purposes, it looks like a good move. However, knight to f2 was best, right? And now suddenly, the engine, with all these combinations on capturing on e5 and everything, one would think that white was winning here, but no. The engine's saying no, white's lost. White's virtually lost after this move. So apparently white would have had to have played knight to f2. Well, only an engine would have found that move. I didn't see that move. I would have played knight to g5 myself. That means nothing, so I would have played the losing move as well. Anyway, Magnus plays h6, and he gets a star, best move. Bishop takes knight. Well, bishop e3 was the best move, and that's interesting, because that would attack the castle and maybe given time to threaten a few pieces. But h takes, right? He's captured on g5. Now, Magnus is fighting for those black squares. I can see that. He's fighting for those black squares. Now, that bishop, that seems to be out of the game. And now look at the bar. It's all one way for black. On the left-hand side of this display board, black is all over white. But that bishop seems to be out of play. It's not coordinating with the other pieces. And I think at this stage, RUNE would have maybe he's already given up the ghost. And he thought, well, I'll just move the bishop. I'll see what happens. Maybe I can just pinch the g-pawn and get a queen to h5 check. Right, so if he could take that pawn on g6 and play queen to h5 check, he would get a check. But even then, it wouldn't be a mate or anything. Anyway, rook to e4. Apparently not the best move. Knight checks was the best move, right? And that's interesting. Why would knight checks have been the best move? Well, we'll have a little look at that. Knight checks. Go back and have a look. Now, knight checks. Now, if pawn takes, oh, look at that. Knight checks. If pawn takes, bishop can take pawn and then take the rook. Ah, so a little sneaky engine, eh? Right, so rook e4, Magnus just consolidates his pieces. He's still winning. It doesn't matter. I mean, have a look at the bar on the left-hand side of the board. So white plays queen to f2. White's actually improved a little bit, but black's still overwhelmingly in favour in the position. Rook to g4, he returns, threatening rook takes pawn check. Okay. g3, he had to capture the knight. He would have had a really bad game, but he had to capture the knight. And now the little bar on the side of the board, on the display board, says It's all over bar the shouting. In comes Magnus. Knight to f3, check. Boom! And then king to f1, star move, best move, forced move. Now I check. On the white squares, it's completely lost on the white squares. Rook d3, forced and only move. You had to interpose there. Bishop takes. Bishop d4. And look at this. All the pieces are combining around the king, the pins, the queen's attacked. So the knight takes. Well, the knight was doing nothing on b3 anyway. So white's probably very happy to just have that off the board. And now rook takes. You wouldn't take with the knight because queen checks down there would be horrid. That would be just a draw. So you don't want that. So he takes with the rook. Now b3. He gets a star for that as best move. But rook takes d3. It says queen d5 is best, but the position is still just a clear win. Magnus has calculated everything. Rook checks. There's nowhere to go. Now, if the king goes to g2, what would you play in that move? What move would you play if the king went to g2? Well, I'll tell you what the correct move is. It'd be knight to g1 check, opening the diagonal for this lovely, beautiful bishop. And the knight here on g1, that knight on g1 there, would stop the king escaping from g2 to h3, and then the queen would be lost with the tempo. But this way, at least he gets a rook for his queen. And now, but he's a clear piece down. So it's just a few more moves are played, a little bit of accuracy, threatening pushing the pawn forwards, and Magnus stops him pushing the pawn forwards, Magnus being the endgame great master that he is. The king comes up. Now there'd be a temptation to pinch the pawn down there, but not Magnus, so he knows better than that. So he just plays e5 and supports the knight, and there's no way that you can get in. And king goes to d3, trying to go up to c4. And the bishop prevents the white king from going to c4 to support the pawn on c5, and that's the end of the game. RUNE resigned. And I think it was just such a fantastic game. And really, when you look at the game, the middle game part of it, apart from that knight to f2 move, the engine move, knight to f2, one would ask themselves, where did RUNE go wrong? Anyway, he was to be rewarded for his great play later on when he got his Grandmaster title and everything else. So I'm sure he would be having a successful career as a journalist and a chess player. So as I said, he was the fourth Norwegian Grandmaster. Okay, well listen, thank you for joining me today. I haven't covered any tributes to Magnus Carlsen. I was going to put one of his losses in, but to be honest, I thought it'd be unfair given that when I examined the history of Magnus's games going right back to 1999, I noticed that yes, he lost lots of games, but this was his learning and development period, and I think it'd be a bit amiss of me to put one of his losses in. I'm not for grandstanding or trying to put someone down to lift myself up or anything. So I'll give credit where credit's due. And Magnus, when I looked at all his record of all his games, and I thoroughly researched all of his games from 1999. He is truly a great, great champion. And we're very, very fortunate in the chess world to have Magnus Carlsen. Thank you. With that, I'll say goodbye, and I'll see you again